investing in, say, some investment opportunity. We saw how to estimate the cost of capital and also the intricacies that we should be aware of when doing that. In short, cost of capital reflects the risk of the business. So when you, even from a say company perspective, if you have several projects that you're proposing, you should avoid using the same rate to evaluate all the projects because just like when you buy clothing to fit your own size. When you do project evaluation, you should pick a cost of capital that fits the risk profile of the project as well. So today we're going to combine the cash flow and the discount rate together in the evaluation on some sample projects. But before we go to the combination, I want to go back a little bit to slides set number 2 when we talked about the free cash flow forecasting. And we started off with some of the issues of how to calculate free cash flow on a project level. And I pointed out some differences that you should be aware of. Okay? When you estimate the free cash flow from a project level basis. When you do free cash flow estimation from a company perspective, it's pretty straightforward. Everything that belongs to the company will need to be counted. But from a project level, okay, sometimes there are some numbers that you should be aware of that you might not have to include, and vice versa. So we finished with some of the simpler stuff last time. One variation of the normal free cash flow calculation is when you have a project, you may end up terminating the project. And if you terminate the project, your liquidation needs to be taken into account as well. So you invested capital that you have, you should expect to recover some back from that as well. We assume full recovery, but in reality, when you recover your assets, it may not be the case. For example, you decide to start an airline, you buy airplanes, but when you go bankrupt, you might not be able to get the full money back from the airplane that you invest. Some people might take advantage of that situation and then offer you a bad price instead. That's an example. Okay. Let's talk about other issues that you may want to be aware of. Okay, this becomes quite important when you do the case study, which will be handing out, I think, next week. So you guys should have a look at that. There's, for example, an overhead cost. Let me ask you, you see this in your management accounting class, so let me ask you what you took away from that class. When I talk about overhead, what comes to mind? What sort of costs are overhead costs? Sorry? Fixed costs, thank you, fixed costs. Is there any more information on fixed costs you want to add? Say, would depreciation, say, be an overhead? When it's fixed cost, but in that class, what do you do with that cost? What do you end up doing with that cost? If I say ABC, does that ring a bell? ABC is a management costing. Actually, you guys learned management costing already? Managerial accounting, no? Okay. I think that's coming later. Let me tell you what it is. Okay, ABC stands for activity-based costing. Okay. Imagine this situation. Okay. You want to price your product. Say I open a bakery. Okay. I want to see how much should I, price my bakery so that I make profit. So to answer that question, first of all, I need to know, per piece of cake, how much does it cost? So something internally, easy stuff like how many grams of flour, how many eggs, sugar, and so on that goes in there is direct cost, quite easy. But there are also indirect costs, like your friend said, fixed costs. I hire a baker. Whether a baker bakes or not, I still have to pay them. But I want to think about if I want to produce, say, this round of cake, what inputs needs to go in there? So I might want to think about how many labor hours of my baker needs to go into baking this. So I will start allocating. Okay, so I pay my baker maybe 30,000 baht a month. How many man hours do I get out of her? And then how many man hours do I need to allocate in order to get one cake? This is called activity-based costing, so that when you want to put a cost per unit cost on something, you have an idea. And one of the issues that come about is, okay, and now I have the costing method. So I know the cost to produce our product X is this. So you might be tempted, okay, to project your profit and loss and your cash flow based on those costing bases. But one of the things that you should be aware of is that, okay, I want to project how much cost, okay, how much cost there are going to be when I want to say introduce a new line of cake. So I do some standard costing exercise and I include the per hour cost of my baker into the projection as well. And that cost becomes implicit in my new pro forma financial statements and so on. And then I evaluate my numbers based on that. One problem here is that you allocate the cost of the baker, okay, but when you do decide to launch that product, are you actually paying that baker more? You still hiring them. So you're just telling them to do more things, paying exactly the same thing. But on the financial statements, if you decided to use the activity-based costing I told you earlier, you included the per hour cost per unit. Sorry, the labor cost per unit of this cake into the projection. But from a company perspective, to make that cake, it doesn't actually cost any more labor hour. The allocation was meant to be an accounting exercise so that you get us an idea of how much does it truly cost to make a cake. But whether you're actually incurring that cost or not is another matter. So this is an example of overhead. Okay, overhead. Typically, an overhead, I like to think about overhead this way. Overhead is up there, but I don't know what exactly is up there. So overhead refers to costs that a company incurs. Typically fixed costs, but not necessarily, mostly a typical fixed cost. Costs that companies incur, but you actually have no idea where this is, where to put this. I know the company needs to pay this, but I don't actually know what is a true, driver of these costs. So when I end up doing a costing exercise, which you learn in management accounting, you have to decide how do I allocate the cost that I'm paying. I know I'm paying for my baker 30,000 baht a month, but how do I allocate the 30,000 baht to say her workload and so on? And you end up finding out that there'll be some variations between how much you're actually paying and how much you actually think you'll be paying and so on. I won't go into much detail. But those two numbers can mismatch when you learn more in the management accounting class. So the implication of this is that there are costs, which you can see, very visible costs. You allocate this cost to your products. But from a feasibility analysis perspective, if they're not incremental, they're not included. Just because from the costing procedure, you're counting it to reflect the opportunity cost of the time. But if in reality she's not being paid more to do the stuff that you're trying to do, then there actually is no cost associated with that difference. So this overhead cost is an example of a cost that you can see. Somebody may present you with this cost, but in practice, you will not do it. Other examples of those costs and so on. Okay, if you work in multi-division businesses, especially when you have, when you're so big that some functions can be centralized. For example, finance, accounting, IT, and so on. Okay. These units tend to be what accountants call the cost centers, okay, because they're not really generating revenue for the company. They're providing services to the company. They're not generating any revenue. So the management theory is to say if you're operating a cost center, it gets really hard to motivate because you're not doing this for the profit. Okay? You're doing this to minimize costs and you get into some weird mentality. So that's one way that you can turn a cost center, okay, a center where there's no revenue, into a profit center. If you work in big groups, say maybe some you may come from central group, you may learn that there are some intergroup transactions. If I want to provide financial services and accounting services for your business unit, I am, say, Top Supermarket. Okay. The accounting will be done by finance and accounting service by Central instead. So they'll do a centralized accounting for you. So you don't need to do that. They'll give you like monthly accounting and so on. But in exchange for that service, you have to pay them. Now, from business unit perspective, okay, your unit, your supermarket, you have to pay them. So you're not going to use them too much because the more you use of them, the more you have to pay. From the accounting unit perspective, we used to just be costing the company money, and people used to look down on us. But now we are independent business unit that has revenue and cost, therefore profit. If you run this unit, you can be profitable as well. So happy situation. But the thing is, does it actually cost TOPS or Central Group any money? Well, it does, but it's just, we separate into different units, but in the end, that transaction is one money from this pocket, money from one pocket, you move it to another pocket. So, is it really a valid transaction? Sometimes when you propose a new feasibility, a new project, you may be asked to pay what's called corporate overhead. You're going to start a new business unit, right? Okay, fantastic. But you're going to need some accounting services. You need some IT services. So we're going to charge the IT consulting services as cost on your project. From that business unit's perspective, you do need to pay. They're going to charge you for this. Okay. But when we make this investment decision, we're not making it based on that business unit's perspective. We're making this based on the whole company perspective. As a company, if I make this decision, okay, regardless of which business unit is in charge of this, from a big picture perspective, are the investors better off by this decision? So even though, okay, IT department charges money, but if that money comes out of that new product into the IT department, it cancels out. That cost, okay, even though there's an invoice for this, it's actually non-incremental for the company. So this is another example of overhead costs, which, okay, you should be aware of, okay, because there are some times when people, when they conduct feasibility analysis, they include those charges in there. And if you decide to run the business units, you will have to pay those. But when you're making that decision, you're not making it based on that business unit alone. You're making that decision based on the whole company. So if one business unit's loss is another business unit's gain, it cancels out. It should not be incorporated in the analysis. So if this is the case, we're going to ignore overhead costs like this. Again, the principle, okay, is back to what we talked about last time. Okay, we want incremental revenue. So if the company decides to implement this from the whole corporate perspective, not the business unit's perspective, not just from this proposal perspective, from the whole company perspective, what are we gaining? What are we losing? In this case, this example, this transaction cancels itself out, so it doesn't have to be featured in our feasibility study. Another point we're talking about is that when people do projections and so on, okay, they project some growth rate and so on. Then they project some costs, and those costs may be fixed and whatnot. One of the things you may implicitly, okay, forget to put in is that costs and also, prices tend to rise in the long run. So if you do numbers and, my sales is going to be pretty much flat, if you say your sales is going to be the same for the next 10 years, it actually means you're bringing in less money over 10 years. Because inflation eats away, okay, your purchasing power. So if you say you're going to get 10 million revenue next year, in 10 years time, I'm also going to get 10 million revenue. The 10 million you get in 10 years time, it means you sell less. Because price is would have been higher then, that means actually not doing as well as before. So you should incorporate inflation in your analysis as well. We're not going to talk about that much in this class, okay, but in reality, when you do your projections, make sure your numbers factor in the potential effects of of the inflation on your outcome as well. Okay. Move on to the next point. Okay, we talked about calculating free cash flows and so on that use no debts. But when a company uses debt, it does pay less tax, so it does have an advantage. Our discussion last time now completes that jigsaw, right? If companies use debt, they pay less taxes. So why should they be evaluated in the same way? You're right; they should be evaluated differently. But when we evaluate them, we're not going to change the way we calculate the free cash flows. Because if we change the way we calculate our free cash flows and so on, back to the same logic in class 1 again. We want to have a number that evaluates investment without biasing ourselves with how we finance the company. That's how we calculated the ROIC and how we calculated NOPAT in the first place. That was our intention. We want to have a number that is invariant to financing strategies. But last time, we discovered that when you do have different financing strategies, you may be able to get some advantage, like tax deductibility. So our way of incorporating that advantage is to not adjust the cash flow. You can keep the cash flow the same, but we're going to incorporate the advantage by saying if you do have tax advantage, we're going to lower the hurdle rate for you. So if you don't have any tax advantage, we may want 10% from you. If you do have tax advantage though, we probably want just 9.5% from you. We lower the hurdle for you instead. So that's why when we calculate free cash flow, okay, don't worry about financing structures and whatnot. Just assume the company has no debt. Keep this the same. If the company does have tax advantage from debt, we'll adjust that in the discount rate instead. And our conclusion will still be the same. Okay, that's the convention we stick with. Okay. Next one is more about economics again. Okay, we discuss the opportunity cost in terms of capital. Okay, we're going to invest 10 million in this project, so I need to know what do I deserve to get back. And the cost of capital is one element of the opportunity cost when you invest in something. Now, when you do decide to invest from, say, project perspective, you need to ask for company's resources. And the thing is, the resources the company has, some of them you may have at your disposal. You own them already. So you may say, well, if I'm going to take this, if I have this already, I might as well use it. And I leave it at that. But the thing is, it's not always as straightforward as that. Okay. So let me give you some example to think about. Okay. Where is this?
Common?
Yes, thank you. This is the common. Fantastic. Okay. What is your impression when you walk into the common in terms of the space? Do you like it?
It's very large.
Okay, very large. Large in terms of, like, you look
Spacious,
everywhere is open.
spacious, yeah.
But one of the striking features is that it's one of the places you can go to and you don't really feel cluttered because you don't really see the ceiling. You go to most other places, you do get to see the ceiling. Right? So you automatically feel a little claustrophobic. The ceiling is pressing on you. But when you go to commons, it is very open. Okay? The floors are very generously sized. If you're a real estate developer, will you call this smart or inefficient use of real estate? This is in the middle of Hong Kong, right? You probably, this land probably costs a lot of money. Okay? If you're buying, you're spending hundreds of millions for this land. If you are, a business-oriented developer, you may be tempted to make the most out of the land. Build more. So you go to other places like J Avenue and those places and so on. You start to see the height between the floor and the ceiling. In some places, I think J Avenue you can even touch the ceiling if you want to. In some areas, a couple of reasons why, right? One is they want to maximize. Okay, there's a concept in construction called the floor area ratio, which tells you if you have this horizontal space, okay, and you want to build buildings. How much total floor space you can build out of your land. So if your floor area ratio is high, it means you can build a lot from the same amount of land. So you can build very dense buildings. You can go high. That's one concept, right? So you want to maximize the usable space from the land you pay for. And the second one is that when you build buildings and you want your floor to ceiling space to be high, it costs a lot of money. Okay? The main cost is actually how high each floor is. If you go to many condos, okay, most condos have floor to ceiling height of about 2.8 meters. Because that's like the minimum required by law. Some more modern condos, they have floor to ceiling height is 3.2 meters. That's because they're adding the extra bit for your comfort, but that's going to cost more. So this, okay, in terms of floor area, then it's not that much. Okay. If you want to build, you can actually build more. And if you want to save costs, you can actually save a lot more costs than this. So if I had to do this as a developer, probably can be very hard to make money on this. Why do you think they can do it? Why didn't they decide to do it? When their land is so valuable, they decide to do this. Let me ask you this question. Do you think they bought the land? If I have the land already, right? I can just cut one component out, or just use more money to build instead. So you can build more elegant structures. So I have to pay. What's wrong with this? If you don't build the land, what could have you done to it? What do you think? If I don't build this myself, what else can I do to the land? You think somebody else gonna want this space?
Sure.
They might want to buy it. They might want to lease it. These are my opportunity costs. So one of the most commonly used argument is that, well, I have land already. I don't have to pay for land. So I can price my stuff a little less. I can build, spend a little more because I'll still make money anyway. It's not entirely correct because even though you're not paying for land directly, you're indirectly missing out on the opportunity to sell your land. When you build this development, you're giving up the opportunity to sell or lease the land. So if you want to evaluate, do I build? It is not versus do I build or not. It is do I build versus sell. Do I build versus lease? So the minimum profit required is not zero. The minimum NPV required is actually not zero. Minimum NPV required is if I want to build myself, it has to be profitable enough to compensate for the price I could have sold the land for. It should be enough to compensate for the lost rent that I could have gotten had I leased out the land. This is what we mean by opportunity cost. We have some resources, but if you're going to use those resources, they may not be free. So we have to account for the cost of using them. Another example that you may come across is, say, I have a warehouse, I want to expand some business and so on, or my house is empty. So I can use the empty space. I don't have to rent another warehouse space or buy more warehouses. Hardly true, because if it is empty now, but it could have been used by your other businesses in the future. If you occupy this space, you are depriving the opportunity for your existing business to use. So you actually have to pay to source other warehouse space for your existing business in the future. So that's what we mean by opportunity cost. If this resource has alternative use that is valuable, you need to incorporate that into your valuation as well. This opportunity cost is a little tricky though. I say that if you have land, you have to think about the opportunity cost. There are certain circumstances where you may have no opportunity costs associated with having land. I know family. If you actually go to near Sukhumvit 24 area, Big C, and all those places, K Village and so on, you see lots of empty land around there. It's not being developed a lot. If you think you want to sell that land, you think you can do it? Yeah, you can do it. But why does nobody go and buy that land? The answer is you can try to go and buy if you want, but they're not going to sell to you. The family actually has an implicit agreement that this land will not be passed down to anyone at all. It has to be within the family. The family, I think the family is Atakai Walati or something, Atakai Gawi or whatever. They own all that land. There's actually a little alley named after them in that area as well. So they're the main landlord there. That's why you can't buy them, but you can lease them. You can lease them, just like K Village. That's that. If that's the case, when we calculate opportunity cost, we can't include the value of the, had we sold what we have gotten. That cannot be part of our valuation. We might have to include the next best opportunity, which is the rent we would have achieved if we lease out our space. If you're in some extreme cases, maybe your ancestors cursed this space, that this space belongs to our family. If anybody else uses this space, may that be damned to eternity or failure. That's one example. You go to one area of shopping malls, you may wonder why there's so many statues and shrines. You know what I'm talking about? It's one area of Bangkok that has lots of statues and shrines everywhere. Yeah, Rapasong area in Central World. Legend has it that that place used to be called World Trade Center, and they didn't do very well. And that place got burned down over and over again. What's happening? What's wrong with this area? Not this area, just this lot as a whole. So it turned out, in the old day when that building was built, that used to be one of the small royal palaces, if I recall correctly. That wasn't supposed to be sold, but somehow got sold anyway. And rumor has it there were some curses placed by the ancestors. So whoever bought that land got that curse as well. So they didn't do very well. That's why they had so many shrines to counteract the effect of the curse and so on. I have a friend who works at Central World, and she said they have ceremonies every now and then. And there was one day when they tried to move the shrine, 4 a.m. in the morning. When they moved the shrine, the storm came from nowhere. But when they finished, it stopped. So whether you believe it or not, it's up to your personal belief. But if your family says you can't sell, you can't rent, it has to be us who live on this land and use this land, then you have zero opportunity cost. Otherwise, you have to think about what else you could have done with that land. That means your proposed business idea, say you want to do a co-working space, your proposed business idea could be slightly profitable without including by your assumption that you don't have to pay any rent. That actually means you're actually making a loss, because if you're making just a little amount of profit, maybe not investing and renting out and becoming a landlord might be a better idea after all. In the old days, many people didn't incorporate this, but now they're doing this more and more. I've also had the opportunity to work with a CU property office too, and they have this in mind as well. When they want to develop, say, a new shopping or retail complex and so on, like Ampark, like Siam Square 1 and so on, they have to think about, if I'm doing this myself, this is what I'm going to get. I have to at least beat the amount of lease I would have gotten had I just become a passive landlord. So they will incorporate this as well. Of course, they don't need to pay for the land. They own it, but their cost of the land becomes the opportunity cost that they could have earned from that land. That replaces the land acquisition cost that you would have had to pay had you not owned the land. Next one comes the economic sunk cost, and I think this one is a lot more. Easily understood for many people. You guys still go to Sunday brunches with your family on special occasions? Some do. I ask some other class and they say they don't do anymore, especially like the undergrads, they don't do this anymore. So probably I can't use this example too long. So on the day you go to Sunday brunch, do you eat breakfast? Okay, that's probably your breakfast and lunch, the brunch. Okay. The first thing you go to a buffet line, what do you pick? Sorry? Pork? Okay, pork. Anyone goes to something else? Smoked salmon. Okay. Salad. I was gonna say we beginning to see a trend, right? Pork, smoked salmon. Some say I go for foie gras, but you go for salad. What do your parents say when you go for salad? Healthy, okay, good. Okay. That's good. It's good to have salad parents. But let me show you my experience, okay? I'm one of those families that go to Sunday brunch on special occasions too. And we won't eat breakfast. And we won't eat dinner for the next 3 days. We just go in and eat, and the moment you go and you start with salad first and so on, the parents will like, why are you starting with this? Go with something more expensive so that we can make it worth our money. And when you're full, you're almost full. Okay. What happens? They keep bringing food, eat up, so we don't have to eat dinner today, and tomorrow, and the next day, and so on. Now, from your perspective, okay, does that actually make you happy? Because every time I remember when we went there, okay, a fun experience would turn into like a food coma, and the next day you couldn't do anything. So you lose a whole day. You pay money, you lose a whole day too. Okay. What is wrong with this logic? If you go into a buffet, the moment you sat down and you tell your staff that I'm paying for the buffet, so please set me up with this. If you walk out without eating anything, how much do you pay? depends on your negotiation skill. But most of the time, okay, you're gonna pay because you start with them. So no matter how much you eat, you pay the same thing. So if you eat just salad and you're happy, at that moment, the moment you decided to eat the buffet, whatever you eat at that point, okay, it's all fair game. Eat whatever makes you the happiest, healthiest, and so on. Not about values word anymore, because whatever happens, you still have to pay. You still have to pay that cost anyway. And that cost, okay, one example, some cost. Another example, okay, food again. Okay, you may have had this cravings. Okay, you walk past, say, Krispy Kreme, stall and say, okay, I want to eat donuts. But if you buy one donut, it's pretty expensive. There's a promotion on ePack that if you buy 12, it costs like nothing. So let me buy 12 anyway, because if I just eat one, I can give the rest to my friend. So you bought 12, you ate a couple, you're happy. You go to your friend in your study group, you want any? I don't eat anything. So you end up walking home with 10. Still. Evening time, you're very, tired, you need energy, and so on. You say, oh, I bought 10. Well, now that I bought it anyway, I might as well finish it. Right? So you keep eating. And then when you finish, probably think, what the hell have I done? I should have thrown that away. But could you throw it away? Right? I paid for this. So I need to eat it so that it doesn't go to waste. But the problem here again is that the moment you bought the 12 pieces, if you throw the 12 pieces away, you can't get back the money you paid for the 12 pieces. Just because you paid money for that in the past shouldn't change the way you evaluate whether I should eat the donuts. If you bought the donuts for your friends and I don't eat them, don't feel bad about wasting food if by eating food you end up hurting yourself even more. Okay, where does this lead to in terms of business? Imagine you are a drug company. You spend hundreds of millions of dollars going after a drug. Never really successful. But then next moment, okay, and somebody tells you, if we spend like just 10 more, okay, we might be able to do it. When you do the feasibility study, okay, and you want to price your products going forward in the future, should you include the cost of the 100 million you spent already in pricing the product? That's a trickier question. Okay? You spend 100 million already. Okay? If you spend 10 more, maybe we can add something to it. So do I include the drug cost as 110, or just the 10 I need to spend? That's a trickier one. Okay? But if you use the logic about the incremental expense, it comes to the same thing. If we stop now, can we get back the 100? If we keep going, what does that happen to the 100? Still gone. So that 100 million in R&D that you spent is gone. Whatever you do with it, it's gone. So when we evaluate the product, whether we're going to go ahead or not, we're only going to evaluate it based on the incremental cost of the 10 million you need to spend. Let's imagine if you do include the 100 million that you spent already, okay, what does that imply? It implies you have to sell at a really high price in order to get back the investment cost that you spent 100 million in the past already. Imagine a competitor who also needs to spend 10 million to complete the product, except they didn't spend 100 million before you. Okay, they were lucky, they just started. You started long before, but you didn't find any success. Now we're at the same point. Both of us can spend 10. One difference is that the competitor didn't spend anything, just need to spend 10. But we spent 100 already, and to spend 10 more to complete. If we incorporate the 100 million we spent already into our pricing decision, there's no way we can beat that guy. Because that guy only has 10 as its cost. So by this logic, okay, the 100 million that we spent already is just bad luck. It shouldn't affect how we price our product. It shouldn't affect our feasibility study. That's what we mean by sunk cost, right? It doesn't mean the 100 million that we spent is, to just be forgotten like that. It is painful, but the only thing you want to take away from that is that don't repeat that mistake again. Just don't take the burden of that 100 into the future. Actually, that's a lot of it has to do with what we learn in Buddhism too. So whatever happened in the past is in the past. Just stay with the present and do your best, anticipate the future, and so on. So that's the sunk cost. Okay. Other examples of sunk costs may be things like a marketing survey. I commissioned a research company, say Nielsen, 10 million baht to do a market survey for me. So I'm not sure whether I want to launch my product or not, but I commissioned them for 10 million anyway. Should I include that 10 million in my decision? Well, whether I launch or not, I'm committed to pay 10 million anyway. So that 10 million marketing survey cost is not relevant to our decision. Whether we do the product launch or not, we have to pay that 10 million anyway. So this is also a non-incremental cost. It's also a sunk cost, so we won't include this. Here's an example of a cost, an invoice somebody sends to us, or something that reminds us these are the costs. But from a decision-making perspective, we can say, yes, we realize these are the costs, but that is not going to affect how we decide whether we proceed with the investment. So we see examples of this before on as well. Some other costs, that you might want to think about. Cokes. What's the difference between these three Cokes?
Sugar content.
Sugar content. Okay, can you be more specific, please?
Coca-Cola Red has a lot of sugar, the other two have none.
Okay. Do they taste the same?
No.
Right. It's spoken like a true Coke drinker. They're the same Coke, but yes, they don't taste the same. Are they all sweet?
They have the sensation of being sweet.
Okay, that's it. So if the red one has sugar, what do the other two have? It's a little more technical. Fake sugar. Okay. Right. Fake sugar. Sweetness. More generalized name. So they have sweetness instead. So why is that? Why they're white and black, or silver and black? If there's real sugar and fake sugars, then aren't all fake sugars the same? Do you know what kind of sweetness we have in our life? You guys aren't really like Coke drinkers, so that's okay. The most commonly used one, they are aspartame, like Equal and so on, and xylitol, like the ones you use in sugar-free milk. They have different tastes. They're all sweet. The kind of sweetness are a little different. Like aspartame, sweetness is a bit metallic. Xylitol sweetness is dangerous because if you eat too much xylitol, you know what happens?
Diarrhea.
Yeah. There was a case about one of these kids that ate a lot of the sugar-free candy and had a diarrhea. All they had to do was read product review of sugar-free Haribo gummy bear. Has that ever come across your experience? If not, I suggest you go on to Amazon, Amazon shopping, and Google for Haribo gummy bear sugar-free and read the product reviews. And you find out what people talk about. The hint is about your digestive system. So you would have known the effects of that. But that's a side effect. So in short, they're both chemicals. They're both chemicals that make things sweet for people who want to drink Coke too, but prefer to not drink, not take too much sugar. Okay. Typically, these products, sometimes each products in different companies are managed by different people. So you give them different KPIs. You may imagine that these guys have different markets to take care of. So they're in charge of, you guys in Coke, in charge of Coke, you guys in charge of Diet Coke. So, see this? Coke as well. So probably gonna taste like Coke. But what do you think is the difference? the green bottle, the green can kind of gives away.
It uses stevia.
This is stevia. Thank you. Coke Light stevia. So, what is stevia? Yawan. Not exactly. Okay, because have you guys ever tasted yawan, sweetgrass? Yes, no? What does it taste like? Bitter? Yes. Sweet but also bitter, right? For me, I think it tastes like grass. Yeah. If you haven't tried, try it yourself. Sweet grass tastes like grass. And if you work for Coke and those soft drinks company, one of your jobs is to go and find healthy alternatives. So sugar has been identified as the unhealthy component of food, so that's why they came up with Diet Coke and so on. But it turns out chemicals that sweeten stuff are also kind of bad for our body. So they try to look for a natural sweetener. And a couple of natural sweeteners exist. Actually, surprisingly, in our region, in Thailand. Okay, one is sweetgrass. Okay. The other one, you know what it is, the sweetener we can use. The English name is monk fruit. It sounds kind of fancy, right? The Thai name is Lon Guen. So, the second one is difficult to extract, okay, the herbal nature of the sweetness. But researchers have been able to separate the grass taste from the sweet grass. And that's what they call stevia. So stevia is basically sweet grass without the grass taste. Patented. And that's the sweetener of Coke Life here. So, you're launching this because you think people are going to be health conscious. It's going to be a good product. So on. So when you evaluate the sales, it looks like it's successful for this product. But if if you're in charge of managing this product, this is exciting for you. You're going to be going after a healthy segment and so on. If you're in charge of these three products, would the launch of Coke Light be good news or bad news for you? Who do you think is going to buy Coke Light? What are customers like? What do they look like? Any more specific? If they drink your stuff, it means they were drinking something else before, right? So they switch to your stuff. So what were they drinking before?
Could something.
Could be Pepsi. That would be good. You would like that. But chances are, people who drink Pepsi, they actually don't drink Coke. They don't taste the same. In fact, if you go to Coke headquarters wearing blue, urban legend has it that you'll be shown the door. You're not allowed to go in, right? You wear blue inside Coke headquarters. So people who drink Coke and Pepsi in some countries identify themselves separately. So chances are it's going to be people who used to drink your stuff already, but now they're just drinking Coke Light. So 100% of the sales you project, some of them may come from genuine new customers, but others may come from your old customers just switching. This is known in marketing as thank you, cannibalization. So you know this conceptually, but financially, what does that imply for our projection? What do you think? Suppose we know 6% of our sales is going to be from old customers. How much of the sales should we count for this product? That's something I need you to think about. For the case we're doing, you have to think a little bit about this as well. So cannibalization makes the sales go down. So how do you treat that? Generally, I think you all agree that it means 100% sales we forecast. We probably shouldn't count 100% the sales we forecast because if it's just feeding customers on our existing product, then maybe this is not a genuine sale. Maybe we shouldn't count it. Now let's step back time to about 2001. You're running a successful company that sells VND shape computer and an MP3 device that holds basically everything you ever listened to in one place. You decide to say, I'm going to launch a phone too. It's capable of doing the same thing. the iPhone. I'm going to launch the iPhone. If you are critical of Steve Jobs' decision to launch the iPhone, what would you say? Well, based on the understanding, okay, not of today, but back then, what do you think the iPhone looked like back then? It looks exactly like calculator. That's one thing too. But it looks a bit like existing product that Apple had, right? It's just like the iPhone. But the only exception is that you can make phone calls on your iPhone. So if you read the news coverage back then, you see people asking, "This is crazy. It's just making an iPod that can make phone calls." So one, the idea is crazy, and two, if you do sell the iPhones, then that's probably going to come at the expense of the iPad. Oh, no, no, the iPods. So cannibalization. What do you think Steve Jobs' response to that was? Let's say, do you think he gives a damn? I don't give a damn. Because okay, if people are going to switch from buying iPod to something else, okay, they could be switching from iPods to, say, maybe Microsoft phone, somebody else's phone, other MP3 player. So I would rather be the one, okay, stealing away sales on myself than let somebody else do that from me. Rather cannibalize myself and then somebody else cannibalize me. And he was right. Okay, the iPod was dead. Yeah, everyone bought iPhone instead. But hey, even more people ended up buying iPhone than the original iPod users. So the iPod was really dead. It was cannibalized by itself. But that's fine because for them it's just a evolution to the next big wave of technology. What this means is, when you talk about cannibalization, conceptually we all understand what this is. Okay? But financially, it's very challenging because how do you know how many percentage of your customers will be new versus old? This is it's all hypothetical. You haven't launched your product yet. You're just guessing that customers may switch from Diet Coke to Coke Life. Therefore, this will decrease our sales. Okay, they will switch, but how many percentage will switch? 10, 50, 40? They're all guesses. So on one end is that, okay, this is all like baloney, so we don't really have a way to estimate this, so let's just forget about it. Let's not include this at all. That's one end. The other end is that, but I think this is real. So instead of relying on assumptions, we can do this. Okay? We can do a small scale launch to test out the market, to see, okay, maybe the whole United States is 300 million people. Let's maybe launch in one city of 10 million people and see who switch and who stay. Get some estimates and see whether it's worth it to launch this on a nationwide scale or not. Turn assumptions into facts first, and then use the facts to base your projection based on that numbers. So that's cannibalization. When your products are good substitutes for one another, this is what can potentially happen. Economists call this negative externalities. Okay? An externality is when your action has undesirable negative consequences on other parties and you don't even care about them. Okay? If you were managing Coke Life and you were just self-centered, you don't care about the impact on other Coke products. So I'm going to launch anyway. I don't care about the other Coke, but my sales are going to be good, my numbers are going to be good, so I'm going to do it. So you're causing negative externality on other brands. This can also occur on a much bigger scale. Okay? I am Indonesia. I'm going to burn my forest. I don't care if Chiang Mai suffers of this every year. But hey, I do this because it's my way of life. So all the smoke, I feel sorry for you, but there's nothing you can do about it. This is also negative externality, sometimes referred to as spillover effects. Okay? This happens when this happens a lot, we say, and market mechanism fails to correct this, we call this a market failure. We need participants in the economic system to figure out solutions. They say, no, we cannot do it. I am China. I am producing a lot. I produce pollution. Yes, the world is lying. Yes, but hey, I'm making a lot of money too. The world belongs to everyone, so everyone pays, but I benefit. I don't really care. US, I rely on all this stuff. Everyone else is cutting down, production, but I don't care. So for market failures like this, it's difficult to address. Okay, so we need some, multilateral agreements, like for example, the Kyoto Protocol you may have heard about. The agreement, collective agreement by nations on Earth to cut the carbon emissions, and so on, and in hope of preserving our atmosphere and whatnot. So these mechanisms, okay, are ways to address the market failures. We're not going to talk about this so much in this class. Okay, we're going to be more concerned about the top one, okay, when the externality is within, okay, your own boundaries. So what do you do with it? And your case is going to be presenting some information on this, and you have exercise of judgments about what to do. Okay. That was negative externality. So bad things happen to one another. You can actually imagine a situation where your action inspires some positive changes, okay, to other people. I give these examples of console games because I want to point out to some commonality in this industry. And this too, okay, espresso machine. What do game consoles and espresso machine have in common? In order to drink espresso, you need to have a pot show machine. In order to play a PS4 game, you need a PS4 console. Let's talk about the pricing, okay, of a PS4 console. You know how much it costs to buy a PlayStation machine nowadays?
12,000 baht.
Yeah, about that, right? 12,000 baht. You know how much it costs, okay, to build a computer capable of the same thing a PlayStation 4 does? Actually, more than 12,000 baht. Whatever they're charging you, okay, for a PlayStation 4 machine, in terms of computing equivalence, it costs you more to build a computer that has the same performance. In other words, Sony isn't making a lot of money out of PlayStation 4 machines. Why are they doing this? Where's the real money? The games. If you don't have the machine, you can't play the games. So what do the games cost? Yeah. A wide range, okay, but thousands of baht for all of them. Right? You buy like maybe 5 games, it costs the same as a machine. So they make money on machines. Nespresso, okay, the cheapest espresso machine you can buy is 5,000 baht. The pots are about 20 baht. If you compare that to say instant coffee, okay, not a good comparison, okay, but kind of similar, or ground coffee, it costs a little more, okay, to buy the pots. So in general, okay, the machines or the espresso machines, we call these the base units. We need these in order to function. And then the consumable part, like the games or the pots, they tend to be more expensive. The products are complementary. You need one to consume the other, okay? So you end up getting more profit on the other one. Another common example, a printer. When you buy a printer, you can buy a printer for about 1,100 baht, sorry, 2,000 baht. You want to fill up the tank, the ink for printer, costs about the same. Fill up the ink. Sometimes even cheaper to buy a machine and just fill up the ink. They make money on that instead. Apparently, okay, this business model is not new. I use some of the new examples, technological ones, but it's been around for a long time. The first time documented history of this business model is by a French guy, okay, who decided to provide a new innovation for men's shaving. You know how men shave in the old day? We need something sharp tool. The sharp tool that we use, they're real blades, big blades. They're blades that can cut you and even injure you if you're not really careful. The blades that you have to wet and also sharpen every now and then. So a couple of pain points, right? One, not very safe, and two, not very convenient. So some smart French guy came up and said, you know what, I'm gonna give you some option. I'm gonna give you some replaceable blade system instead. It's very safe and convenient for you to use. The only catch is that you're gonna have to buy the blade from me only. If you buy the blade from other people, it's not gonna work. And he made a ton of money with this. It's actually called the razor and blade business model. So that French guy's name is Mr. Monsieur. What do you think his name is?
Gillette.
Gillette. Monsieur Gillette. The Gillette razor blade that we use was the one apparently credited with inventing this business model. Gillette razor blades and the razor handles. Okay, you buy the handle with the blade, cost something, not cheap, okay, some amount. But you want to replace the blade replacement costs as much as the whole thing. Why is this? Well, the blade, the handle is really complimentary for you. And in fact, I'm willing to give this away to you for free. Because once you have this handle, it only works with my blade, so you have to buy my blade. So any other businesses that have, like, say an air filter or water filter system that needs to replace cartridges, rely on this business model as well. In marketing classes, in some strategy classes, they like to talk about things like customer lifetime value. So you could estimate, right? A customer buys the razor blade handle from you. How many blades is he likely going to buy in the future? You can estimate what value each customer has. But back to this. This is, in other words, also known as cross-selling. So when you do a projection of businesses like this, you need to make a projection into two components. One is how many installed units do you have? How many PS4 are out there in the world? How many razor handles that we have in the world? This will determine our potential demand. The more PS4 we have, the more games we can sell. So when you make your projection, your one driver will be how many PS4s have you sold. Then you can estimate, okay, how many games you think each PS4 console is going to buy per year, for example. And this will become your sales projection. Okay, so before we begin with some numerical issues, let's do some concept check. Suppose you're a fashion retailer and you want to come up with a spring collection. So you hire a designer, and the cost of that design is 200,000 bucks. And then you want to decide whether I want to turn this design into a product and then monetize it. So you run all the analyses, okay, it turns out I'm losing money. Okay. My feasibility analysis says if I do launch this, okay, I'm going to lose 150,000 baht in terms of value and present value. The question is, should we still do it anyway? Okay, the NPV is negative after I include all the costs. Design, production, distribution, marketing, and so on. It's loss-making. So how many of you think we should do it? Raise your left hand. Not do it, right hand. Let's see how many people do it. No left hand, right? The others just can go right hand if you say yes. No answer? Zero answer? Okay. That's fine, as long as you answer in the exam. Right? Or you don't have to answer in the exam, that's fine too. I like blank exams, they're really easy to grade. Might not be very good for you, but I love them too. Let's think about this. If I do this, I lose money. I lose money 50 times. If I don't do it, what do I get? If I decide to not launch the collection, what are my net position? I don't make anything. Do I lose anything?
Yeah.
What do you lose?
So,
Design costs. You hire a designer, whether you produce it, you monetize it or not, it's a different issue. But that 200,000, you have to pay. So there are two ways to approach this. The first way is to, if I do it, I lose 150,000. If I don't do it, I lose 200,000. So losing 150,000 is preferable to losing 200,000. So let's do it. Another way is to say, well, that 200,000 is a sunk cost. If that's a sunk cost, then in my 150,000, this should not include the 200,000. So my relevant NPV should be minus 150,000, but also I add back the design cost that I shouldn't have accounted for. So when you add that 200,000, your NPV is actually plus 50,000. Deciding to do it gets you plus 50,000. That's in terms of decision making, right? you're still losing money, okay? In terms of your profit, you're losing money, but you're losing less money than you would have lost compared to had you just stay put. Because that design cost, you have to pay regardless. So that's how the incremental analysis helps us. Okay? It's not meant to capture how much money you make. It's meant to capture when you make that decision, what is the net impact on your wealth? Your wealth may be higher, but that doesn't mean your wealth is increased. It's just higher than the other option. Because the other option loses you even more money. So you're choosing between a money-losing option versus a bigger money-losing option. So you go with a smaller money-losing one instead. Your NPV analysis can be positive, but that analysis is relative between the two choices that you're making. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. You can do both, okay? You can do, I'm gonna stick with minus 150,000, that's fine, but then your benchmark should no longer be zero. Your benchmark, when you don't do it, okay, your status quo is not zero, but it's minus 200,000. So it's a matter of, do I reset my benchmark or do I use a different benchmark? It's all the same relative, okay, comparison. We want to compare the numbers down here, the numbers up here, but the gap is still the same. Okay, next example. I own a piece of land that has value of 2 million baht. I want to open a co-working space, a coffee shop, and so on. And I'm just going to evaluate just the business part, okay, not the land part, since I own the land already. Okay. And it turns out the NPV of this is 600,000. So should I go ahead and open a co-working space? Remember, the NPV is based on my co-working space and coffee shop is alone, excluding land cost. So I see some varied responses, a lot of you shaking your head. And that's the right direction, but this one is a trickier one, because this one, as we talked about earlier, right? Just because you own a land valued at 2 million baht, just because Chulalongkorn owns land valued at tens of thousands, tens of billions of baht, it doesn't mean we actually can use them. It doesn't mean we can sell them. You can value land, sure, but if you can't sell that land, that is not your opportunity cost. Opportunity cost reflects what you can do with the land. So if you can do with the land, it means you could have sold the land for 2 million, but you're doing the coffee shop, you get 600,000. So still the land is there. It makes more sense. It could be that the land is valued at 2 million baht, but if you rent it out, you probably wouldn't get 400,000. So if you rent out and get rental income worth 400,000, then do it yourself is worth more because you get 600,000. Okay, so when you talk about opportunity cost, you need to be clear what really is your opportunity cost. Because you may own a resource that has value, but you're not really presented with any other alternatives. If that's the case, then maybe it really is worth it to just open the coffee shop, because otherwise you couldn't do anything with that anymore. Right? So this is the one. Something's wrong. Maybe crashed. Okay, I know what's wrong because we end this section. So that was slide 2. I was meant to give you an overview of what these 10 points are. Now we're going to turn these 10 points into a numerical example. Okay, so I want to take the information we have over here in our sheet, step 4. We're going to take information and provide over here and then try to analyze, do we go ahead with this decision or not? Okay, and this decision we're talking about is going to be a decision to buy a machine as a fashion manufacturer to produce some accessories. So we want to see if it's worth it for us to do it or not. So let's gather some information together. Sheet 4. So we had a consultant conduct a feasibility study. Okay, consultant comes in many levels. So this would be like your friend really, consultant. You have a look at my idea, or you can say, yeah, sure, I'll give my friends of the charge $30,000. So then you have a look at your idea and so on, and I will tell you whether it's a good idea or not. So the consultant says, yeah, you can do it. Okay, the machine. If you want to do it, here's what it's going to take you. You need to invest in the machine, and the machine's going to cost 300,000 baht. With 1,000 baht, you can use this for 4 years, and you can use a straight line depreciation basis. This is not the true depreciation basis in real life. I'm doing this out of convenience. Just this, have a real life investment decision. So you invest with 1,000, and when you sell the accessory, you're gonna get 150,000 baht revenue for the next 4 years. Same amount 4 years. So here I'm also ignoring inflation. If I sell the same for the next 4 years, actually in real terms, I'm getting less and less and less. But it's okay. Let's ignore that. Production costs and so on. 40% of sales, excluding depreciation. We want to make the depreciation explicit, okay? Because our free cash flow calculation does not really want to include depreciation in that. We only add it back later. We need to have inventories of 50,000 to produce this, but fortunately, okay, you have payables of 20,000 offset. You need this inventory to keep, like the raw materials and so on in order to keep the sales going, keep the production going. So the 50,000, you can think of that as, okay, we're going to start a business, so we're going to stock up. And as we produce more, we're going to use this up, but we're going to replenish them over time as well. So when we go from first year to second year, third year, so on, we're still going to need some inventory to go. So we are assuming that we just need 50,000 per year, 50,000 in each year. And then once you're done at the end, you can get the whole thing back, completely covered. At the end, you can also sell the machine for 50,000 baht, tax rate 20%, cost of capital 10%. So let's complete this table together. So I'm going to do this exercise in Excel, and I'll upload the sheet to the box for you to audit later as well. So let's do this together. Okay. Let me delete all these first and then put these together. Okay, so let's do this line by line. The first line, revenue, 150,000. So I'll cut the 3 zeros out of revenue. Expenses, excluding depreciation, we say is 40%. Okay, so let's do 40% multiplied by 150,000. That gives us 60. I'm going to add a minus sign in front to remind ourselves this is an expense. Depreciation. It's best to start talking about the investment first. Okay, our investment is 300,000. So this we reflected in the CapEx down here. That's our investment in the machine. 300,000. And we depreciate this over 4 years. So we're going to divide this by 4. Gives us 75. Add all these up. This is our EBIT. Tax rate is 20%. So we pay tax of 3,000. No PAT. 12. We follow the normal free cash flow calculation. Then we can follow the sequence. Add back depreciation, 35. Working capital actually occurs since the beginning. So we talked about the need for 50 in inventory. We also talked about the need, the financing of payables, I think 20,000. Yeah, 20,000. So our net working capital requirement is going to be 50 minus 20, only 30. So cash flow the first year and the initial investment will look like this. I'm going to fill in the rest of the numbers too. They're all the same numbers. So if you're doing this on paper, you could just draw an arrow to indicate that the numbers are all the same height. Suppose this was an exam situation. I don't expect, if the numbers repeat, I don't expect you to write down the same numbers again. You can just say, same numbers to move on to something else. So the numbers are the same in all the years. So the assumptions I made are constant over time. But the last year deserves some attention. In the last year, we have, actually maybe year 1, 2, 3, 2. Working capital, the 30,000 that we put into the company, it stays inside the company. Right? As inventory gets replenished, you buy more and so on, but net amount you keep on hand is going to be 30,000. So what that means is, if you need 30,000 to do the business, okay, when you start the business, you started with nothing, so that's why you put in 30,000. But as the business continues, I don't need to put in any more because the original 30,000 I put in is rolled over. It keeps the business going. So the change will be 0. That doesn't mean I don't have working cap. I do have working cap. I don't need to put any more money into the working cap. So it's important to appreciate that this line doesn't track how much working cap you have, but it tracks the cumulative capital that you dedicate to working cap. If you dedicate 30,000 and 30,000 is enough, then it's a one-time increase in the working cap. And if at the end you don't need the working cap anymore, then you can take that 30,000 back. So at the end, you're going to take this 30,000 back, and this is going to become our positive cash flow at the end. The last one, CapEx, and we spent 300,000 on CapEx at the beginning. We depreciated over time, so we ended up depreciating the whole machines by the end. But that doesn't mean it's worthless. According to our case information, we're able to get back 50,000, 50,000 for the machine. But remember, last week when we talked about the net proceeds, when you sell the machine for 50,000, it doesn't mean you get the full 50,000. Right? You need to pay a tax based on the profit. So let me break that down to pieces. Sale price is 50,000. Profit on the sale is 50,000 minus the book value of this machine. But we depreciated this machine to 0. Its book value is 0. So everything you sold for is profit. Then we need to calculate the tax due. So 20% of the profit. Then your net proceeds is going to be your sale price and whatever you sell for, and then incorporate any tax you have to pay or credit you get back. So on net, you only got 40. She's being really appreciated, so everything is profit. Once you add all these up, you get your free cash flow number. So the numbers are the same. The last year has the same component as the first 3 years too. It's going to be the same 87. but you also get the capital recovery of 70 here. So 87 plus 70, you get 157. That's all your cash flow you're going to get back at the end. You can do this in terms of the invested capital. You can draw your invested capital balance sheet, and you will find that free cash flow is then NOPAT minus investment. Right? So in each year, you have negative investment. First, from the depreciation you get back. In the last year, in addition to depreciation you get back, you also got the working capital recovery and also the proceeds from selling those assets as well. So this is your cash flow, and with these cash flow, you can do the tools that we learned together. We can do payback period if you want. We can do IRR. We can do NPV. So that's discount rate is 10%. Let's calculate the NPV of this project. Let's first calculate the value of the project, right, before we do net present value. Net present value is value minus price. So the value, we're going to look at the what you get from investing in the 4-year cash flows. One of the confusing parts of Excel is that the NPV function in Excel doesn't actually calculate NPV. Okay. The NPV function in Excel only calculates the present value of future cash flow. NPV also includes today's cash flow. So you're missing one cell when you calculate NPV, you're missing one number. The NPV function only wants to take in all these 4 numbers, it doesn't want to take in this number. So it's misnamed. So be careful when you apply the function. Okay, so the value of this investment is 324, say. Here the reference inputs. What we put in here is discount rates here and also cash flow there. The benefit of not typing 10% here directly but referring to this cell is that if you want to change this number to say 12%, you can change the number. You can change the output very easily. One of the powerful tips you can use with Excel is that whenever you do calculations, don't ever try to type in numbers explicitly. Try to make the numbers appear as a separate location somewhere, so that when you need to change the number, you don't have to go back into the formula. Just change the input numbers, everything updates automatically. You get into this habit, and when you end up having to do financial modeling, things become easier for you. Okay, the price is 330, of course, so the NPV indicates that well, the price is 330, but the value is less than 330, so the profit, the NPV, is going to be negative. It's not worth it. You can verify with an IRR calculation. The IRR functions as we want it to. So we include all the cash flow, all these 5 numbers here, and then it will calculate a number for us. The IRR here is less than 10%. It means what we get is less than what we want to get, not an investment opportunity that we would like to do. Okay. So you have access to the spreadsheet online later, so you can go around and figure out what is being done over here. I also suggest, okay, you have this structure in your saving notes, but I think if these kind of questions come up, I will probably, give you some guideline anyway, so it should be a bit. There's actually one number. If you look back at the numbers I gave you, okay, there's one number I haven't included. And it's a consulting cost. We know we're not going to do it anyway. So whether we put in consulting cost or not, to change our mind. But that's not the right way to think about it. Let's say we don't know the output, whether we're going to do it or not. When we calculate these cash flows, should we include the cost? First of all, if you want to include the cost, we could. it's going to be an expense. This expense is going to be an upfront expense. So it would have appeared over here. It would have appeared over here, and your EBIT would be here. You would have calculated taxes here. So this is what, don't write this down. This is what could have happened. But we didn't include this. We didn't do this. So the question is it right to not include the feasibility study cost for the consultant? Let's think about if we didn't do the project, are we still obliged to pay the 30,000? It's a consulting project, right? It's not contingent. It doesn't depend on whether you launch a product or not. If you have a consulting project that is dependent on implementation of the project, then that may be a different issue. And sometimes consulting contracts may come in different phases. The first phase, initial study phase, okay, this is independent. So this I pay anyway. But there could be a next phase that if we do decide to go on, I'm going to hire you to implement this project as well. If that's the case, okay, then the phase 2 part, we're going to have to include. But the phase 1, okay, the pre-launch, pre-decision study cost is not incremental. So in this case, we ignore the 30,000 because it's a sunk cost. So 30,000 feasibility study is a sunk cost. Consulting cost does not need to be sunk, as I told you earlier. Right? If it's consulting for advisory on how to implement the project, then that's a different issue. If I decide to do it, I have to pay. If I don't do it, maybe I don't have to pay. Depends on the nature of the consulting contract. But here, if it's project launch, then typically you're gonna have to pay. So it's gonna be the sunk cost. So we're not gonna do it. Let me add one more information and then we'll take a break after this. It's negative, we're not going to do it, fine. But suppose you notice something, the consultant noticed something. By the way, I noticed that the machine that you ordered, when you asked me to do the feasibility, I only look at a new product. But it turns out the new machine you're going to buy is capable of producing the old product as well. So, you could actually use it to make some more money. You didn't include this because you didn't ask us to, but now that you give us the flexibility, there's actually also this option of using the excess capacity to produce over that line. And this would result in an incremental EBIT of 5,000. We're going to change our mind. A couple of ways to do this. The first way is to just go back and rework on my numbers. So let me save the old result first. Okay, right now NPV is minus 6.41, so let me save this number down here. I want to be minus 6.41, and I need this. Okay, let's see. If my EBIT is missing by 5, then let me add 5 to EBIT. Notice I am not selling. Sorry, I don't have. It doesn't mean I have 5,000 baht of revenue more. It means I have 5,000 baht of profit more. So my revenue could be higher. I'm deducting all the costs associated already. So my numbers will then be updated. It will be it's actually a bad way to adjust the change. So it would be this, okay, plus incremental EBIT, and then everything will get reevaluated, and there we go. Okay, you have positive NPV now. So we would conclude, okay, let's do it. Our IRR is also greater than 10%. Let's see how much NPV improvement we got. Okay, our NPV improvement is 12.68. So take this number, okay, and then file it away somewhere first. What we can take away from here is that If we include this opportunity, it turns out this project is good. We can do it. Doing the new accessories alone is not good. If you do the new accessories plus the old accessories, then it's worthwhile. I can buy the machine. So can I reach the same conclusion without going back and then meddling with my original forecast? Turns out I can. Okay. Let's say I separate the incremental EBIT, the missing EBIT of 5,000 per year. Okay, so I only look at the 5,000 per year. I leave the old numbers intact. Don't change anything. I want to ask, what's the contribution? If I make 5,000 more of EBIT per year, what's the contribution to my free cash flow? Well, EBIT has to be deducted, has to be tax deducted first. So I'm going to pay 20% tax on this. So my NOPAT, 34. Per year. Next question I want to ask is, okay, my NOPAT goes up by 4,000 per year. What does that do to my free cash flow? Well, my NOPAT goes up, but it doesn't impact my depreciation, doesn't impact my working cap. I don't need to make any more investments. So all that NOPAT improvement goes directly to free cash flow. Okay, in some other situations, you have to think about, okay, I get this incremental EBIT, but do I need to make any other investments? I want to take the net cash flow impact of the decision that I'm missing out. The simple example I have here is this 4 is going to be exactly the 4 of cash flow. So let's calculate the NPV of this missing free cash flow. And you may have guessed this number is that 12 we're looking for. So if we add the 12.68 to the original minus 6.411, we would have gotten 6.27 as well. We could get this number here in 2 ways. The first way is go back, rework the spreadsheet to the new numbers and arrive at a conclusion here. It turns out my cash flow is higher, so my NPV is now 6.27 instead. The second method is to stick with the old number, minus 6.411. That was the original plan the consultant proposed. What is the contribution of the next proposal that the consultant suggests? The contribution of the strategy to use the machine to manufacture all accessories has value of 12.68. So we could express our result as this. The machine by itself, if you want to buy it for new products, it's not worth it at all. It's actually a money-losing proposition. But if you're able to take advantage of that and produce old products too, the contribution from the old products actually makes the whole thing worthwhile. You could present just this number, and then conclude that both of them are good, or present 1, 2, and 3 numbers. So 1, 2, and 3 numbers here, and then tell the whole story about what is it about this investment that ends up making us profitable. You can decide which one you present because you're presenting the same thing. I end up doing it, but why do I end up doing it? Do I end up doing it because it's profitable, or do I end up doing it because this by itself is not good, but with the complementary strategy, it becomes profitable. So with this, let's do it. This is one of the nice features of NPV analysis is that you can break things apart, group them. I can do the NPV analysis on the whole thing, or I can separate the NPV analysis on just the old project versus the new projects, and then combine them together. My output is the same. Mathematically, this is equivalent to saying that NPV is additive. You can break them into small parts and then add them up. The value is the same as the sum as the individual pieces. So if you break them apart and you can tell a more comprehensive story, That's one advantage of using this tool, okay, to help support your decision making. So let's take a break here. Okay, when we come back, we're going to look at a table that is similar to this as well, okay, but based on the decision of whether not to, not a decision of to do or not to do, but a decision of do I do A or do I do B instead.
I borrow this different.
Okay, so 15 minutes to come back continue.
Photocopy paste as far as I know.
You didn't have it?
I didn't bring it today.
Well, this is this week. Oh no, okay, okay.
This is last week, right?
Yeah,
Monday.
yeah, yeah.
เสียใจด้วยนะเพิ่มข้าวเพิ่มเสิร์ฟไม่มีการจัดสรรไปร้านได้สลับได้อันนี้อร่อยอันนี้อร่อยมากแบ่งกันเดี๋ยวแบ่งกันคนละฝาน้องพีไม่ถึง40แกงเผ็ดอร่อยมากเลยเขาได้ของเผ็ดเอาเลยได้แกงกิน
ใหญ่ขนาดนี้เลยอ่ะที่รู้นะเนี่ยเดียว
เดี๋ยวนี้แบบทำผ่านตัวบอกแตกมึงไม่ต้องเอา
อ่ะ
ต่อเหมือนกัน
ของจีนอะไร
ทำไมเขาต้องแดงขนาดนี้วะผู้หญิงคนเนี้ย
เออ
ล่ะคือเราไม่อยากกินเยอะๆด้วยเป็นราเมงอ่ะตั้งแต่ใช้ได้แม่เป็นเพลงได้กินเบาๆต้องขวัญไม่กินหลักได้เพราะขวัญอ่ะกินกินสูงมากแต่น้ำออกตอนกลับมาเรียนครั้งแรกที่เจอดูออกคนขึ้นอันนี้พอเราแจกแบบนี้เจ็บมันเจ็บชายแกมันไม่พอดีนะเราเลยคือแบบคือหน้าเด็กเลยเขาแจกอันนั้นเลยอันนี้แจกใช่ไหมแล้วก็แต่ก็เจ็บหูดีอันนั้นดีกว่าไม่มันเจ็บหูที่จะแบบมันไม่ใช่สีเขียวแบบสารกันชนสบาย
is set to 10%. Whether we know the answer is for previous risk, risk, market risk, so we will go back on the exercise. What is this? Samara equation.
Really?
ร์ทอัพต่อมันยังไม่สเตเบิลจริงๆก็ลองได้ก็มองว่าน่าสนใจแต่แบบคิดว่าคนที่แบบทำเพจออกมาแบบเพจที่จะแบบแชทไฟล์แล้วแบบทำเพจออกมาแบบเป็นเพจไฟล์เนี่ยเพื่อนบอกว่าแบบเพื่อนที่เป็นเฮดอาร์บอกว่าเทิร์นโอเวอร์สูงมากจนฉันก็เทิร์นโอเวอร์ตัวเองเลยอะไรเงี้ยว่าเขาจะญี่ปุ่นจะเกี่ยวกับแบบเหมือนกับเป็นแบบสไตล์แล้วก็อยู่ดีก็ทันสิทธิ์ไปญี่ปุ่นจะแบบภาษาแต่ละ
Okay, so before break, we looked at an example of whether or not to invest in a project that's been presented to us. I want to take a short change of pace here and look at another example where your project may be much longer than 4 years. The example we saw earlier was whether we don't do it or not, and everything was wrapped up within 4 years. This is a case, and you would need to project your cash flow going forward as well. But for the periods that are outside your forecasting window, you need to find ways to incorporate that value. The continuing value can be estimated using, say, multiples, okay, or can be estimated using the Gordon growth model. So in this case, an example here is an investment of 1.5 million, which in the first 3 years you get back 100,000, 150, 200, and so on. So you know it hasn't really paid back yet, so you look at the numbers, you know it's not going to be worth it, just the numbers alone. But after year 3, you're still going to be receiving some cash flow. But instead of doing the projection out so far in the future, you replace that by a perpetual growth assumption instead. So in this situation, okay, for year 4, you could say the cash flow grows by 3 years. Year 5 cash flows grow by even more by 3 years after that. But you can use a growth perpetuity formula to convert all the future cash flows into a terminal value, then do the calculations from there. So here I'm not going to walk you through the example, but you see this in the stock pricing class, but I have the answer for you in the bottom right here. If you calculate the present value of all the cash flows going forward into the future, you get a value that is more than 1.7, more than 1.5 million, 1.77 million or so on. So that's the value of the investment of the cash. Compare that to your cost of 1.5 million, your NPV is positive, so you're going to do it. One of the challenges with this approach is that it's difficult to calculate IRR. With an IRR, you're meant to have a well-defined cash flow. But here you only have investment here and then 3 years of cash flow, when in effect there's infinite stream of cash flow that comes after this. So theoretically speaking, you can't use a traditional method to calculate the IRR here. You can't draw the cash flow out for so long. It really makes sense. One approach that people do is to calculate the terminal value. Convert the future cash flow to terminal value. Then calculate the IRR based on the resulting cash flow instead. But if you want to calculate terminal value, one requirement is that you need to specify what the cost of capital is. But if you recall what the IRR is, the IRR is like asking what cost of capital makes the NPV equal to 0. But if you want to calculate the terminal value, you have to make a stand on what the cost of capital needs to be. So you're kind of specifying the number you want to search for already in there. That makes your IRR calculation not a true IRR calculation. Technically, people do this. Okay, just want to point out that the number is technically not correct, but at least it makes the IRR calculation feasible. So you can convince yourself, okay, if you calculate, okay, you estimate the terminal value from the cost of capital 30%, and you calculate the IRR based on these cash flows, you will get a similar solution. You get a solution that the IRR is greater than 30%, so you're going to proceed with investment. You can verify this yourself, okay, if you have any difficulties or questions regarding this, you come and ask me. I just wanted to point out to you that this is the dividend example, but replaced by cash flow example, by free cash flow, everything is the same. You can do an IRR calculation, but the IRR calculation would be a pure IRR calculation. This is what I want to focus more time on. Okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to move on to some alternative methods of doing valuation when we have uncertainty facing us. So this is an A/B choice. Okay. You choose between option A or option B. Before you choose to do it or not, here we have a mutually exclusive case. Do I do A or do I do B? And the choice is going to be between, it's a replacement decision, which in effect is a decision between do I continue using the old machine versus do I go with a new machine. So let's see some information first. We have an old machine right now, okay, and revenue that we're going to get from selling whatever we're producing is going to be 300,000 per year. Okay. For simplicity, in this case, we're going to ignore the net working capital. Okay. There might be net working capital involved, we just ignore it to keep the moving parts as few as possible. The current machine that we have has useful life of 4 years left. Look at the balance sheet, okay, at book value is worth 80,000. And if you want to sell it, it's also worth 80,000. With this machine, it's an old machine, so the operating expense is pretty high. It's about 180,000 to produce. So the 300,000 revenue you get, the cost associated with that is going to be 180,000. Machine has useful life 4 years, book value 80,000, so 20,000 depreciation per year. You could buy a new machine. It also has useful life of 4 years. So the old machine still has remain useful life of 4 years. The new machine has useful life of 4 years as well. Again, for simplicity. With the efficiency, it's going to cost you less to operate. So instead of costing 180,000, it's going to cost us 80,000. Both machines depreciate on a straight line basis, tax rate 20%, discount rate 10%. So should we replace the machine? We're going to approach this two ways. The first way is called the brute force way, which simply means let's calculate the values of both options and compare which one is better. Pick that one. So that's the naive, straightforward way. Then once we've done that, we're going to find a slightly smarter way of going about it without having to do a lot of calculations, yet arrive at the conclusion. So first start with the brute force way. We're going to look at I think it's better to start with new machine. So let's go to this one first. Let's build a new machine first. We're going to go back to the old machine and compare it. Okay. So let's start with the new machine. Revenue is 300,000. Expenses. The new machine has lower operating expense, so it's going to cost us 80,000 for operating costs. Depreciation. It's going to cost us 300,000 for the investment machine. That means our depreciation is 75,000. So numbers, I use the same numbers in your example. Add up in the costs and revenues, we have EBIT of 145. You pay tax 20% based on 145, 29. So our NOPAT is 116. Depreciation we add back of 75. No change in working cap, this line we ignore. So we can calculate the free cash flow of this option. Okay. So since I want to make this about the old versus new machine, okay, I made the numbers not have any moving parts. So the numbers in the next 3 years will be exactly the same. You don't need to write anything down, just write a straight line. I wanted to make this more complicated. I could have said the machine could be sold at the end, but I want to take this out. I want to show you just the comparison between new and old right now. You can have more complexities in real life, but the logic is the same. Okay, so this is the free cash flow of the new machine, and we can calculate the NPV of this. get about 305,000. It's a positive number, so we're going to do it. Okay. We can do the IRR too if you like. Also, a fantastic IRR like this. Okay. Looks like you want to do it. But remember, it's not about doing or not doing. Okay? It's about doing this or the other. So we want to look at what you get from investing in the old machine too. Okay. So we have the cash flow of the new machine. Let's go back to the old machine and calculate. What if we stuck with the old machine? What would we have gotten instead? So fill in similar numbers. Okay, old machine 300,000 revenue. Expenses, it's an old machine, so it costs more. Depreciation. The machine has book value of 80,000, depreciated over 80 years basis, 4 years basis, so it's 20,000 per year. Okay, so 80,000 divided by 4 gives 20,000 per year. So your EBIT is 100, your tax is 20, your NOPAT is 80, and back depreciation, no net working capital, no CapEx. So here are our cash flows. Don't write the next part down yet. I want to do the NPV of the old machine. Okay, don't write this down yet. So I got the NPV of the old machine from up there, right? 305. Okay. And a new machine, I calculated free cash flow. Okay, calculate the NPV, and I got 317. Looks like it's better to go with the old machine, right? Somehow. But there's one thing that I'm missing. I don't need to make any investment for the old machine. Right? The new machine I have to buy 300,000. But the old machine I have already. So I don't need to do anything. But let's think a moment, okay? If you decide to use the old machine, is there any opportunity cost associated with the old machine? If I use it, what am I giving up? What's the value of the machine? I said something about the market value of the machine in the information I gave you. So that means if you sold the machine, you would have gotten how much? 80,000. Thank you. So by using the machine, you are giving up the opportunity to sell the machine for 80,000. So there is in fact a cost associated with the old machine option. We're going to call this CapEx because similar. Right? It's as if you had to buy the machine. Right? You want to use the old machine, you have to buy the old machine. It's equivalent to saying that we had the old machine. If you didn't use it, you could sell it. Okay? Your lost opportunity to sell is equivalent to like buying that old machine. So the cost of using the old machine is 80 in exchange for all these free cash flow. It turns out the old machine is actually worse than the new machine. Okay. So without recognizing that the old machine does carry a cost, even though it's not visible, nobody charges you. It's an opportunity cost. It's actually not as profitable as you thought it is, because you were ignoring that there's a hidden cost associated with carrying on to use the old machine. So in turn, it looks like going with the new machine is better after all. Okay, so you could make this conclusion by one way. Look at this, okay, NPV of old machine, NPV of new machine, and you do new minus old. So you will see how much better new and old are. So you would go with the new machine. You have a better NPV of around 68,000 baht. That's the brute force way. Yeah, that's the brute force way. And I wanted to do this because I want to show you, actually all this, just to show you this. If I miss this, I'll make a wrong decision. I do include it though. the old machine isn't as good as it seems because there's a cost of using it as well, which we have to account for. Next, I wanna see if I could reach this conclusion without doing two big tables. Okay. In the end, to make this conclusion, what do we need? We need two sets of numbers. We need the number, the free cash flow of the old machine versus the free cash flow of the new machine. Okay, so let me carry the numbers down for you. Actually, it's been carried over already. Okay. For a new machine up top, okay, it costs you 300,000. You get 191. The old machine, it costs you 80. It doesn't cost you directly. It costs you like a hidden cost, but we're gonna include that anyway. And you get 100 each year. So the difference between old machine and new machine is as if you're investing 220. Okay, you're getting back 91 in return. This we change the problem. Okay, instead of choosing A versus B, by asking. It's not a choice of A versus B. Let's just say our status quo is old. We're going to stick with the old machine. If we stick with the old machine, this is how much we get. But if we decide to switch to a new machine, what are the differences? What do I get that are increases in cash flow? And what investments do we need to make? Okay, so this is the incremental cash flow with the decision to switch from old machine to new machine. So now our decision is not whether one or the other. Our decision is now we're using your old machine. If we do switch to a new machine, what's the net cost and benefit of doing so? And now we can even calculate the IRR associated with this decision. It's going to cost me 220, but I'm going to get 91 per year for 4 years in return. Is this worth it? We can do the IRR on this. Remember, we could do the IRR on each of these, but those IRRs are not comparable. So we're going to do the IRR of this. And then compare this our cost of capital. Well, it costs our capital, okay, to invest costs us 10%, but our return to that capital is 24%. So let's do this investment. Also do NPV of difference. So let's do NPV of this. Okay, so we get back exactly the same numbers, but here it's just meant to verify to you that we could get the same numbers by not writing those two tables. If we just had this line, just this line, then we're done. This is the most important line for this decision. Then we could conclude that yes, switching to old machine to new machine is better. So the next question is, how do we get this line without going through two tables of calculation? So there's not a mathematical way, but really a logical way of going about this. So let me walk you through this argument. So these are the summaries of what we just did on the spreadsheet. Let me walk you through this argument. We're comparing two decisions. So if our goal is to look at incremental change, right now I'm using the old machine. I switch to a new machine, what changes? Does revenue change? No, we're producing the same thing, selling the same thing. So we don't need to even consider revenue in our analysis. It's the same regardless of which machine we use. Let's check that. Expenses, yes, this is relevant. In fact, this is one of the most important things because the old machine costs 180,000 per year to operate. The new machine costs 80,000. So we're going to benefit from some cost saving. So yes, revenue matters. Depreciation, the old machine has depreciation of 20,000 per year. So that means we're going to have to pay a lot of taxes. The new machine has depreciation of 75,000 per year. So that's a sizable tax sheet. So we end up paying less tax. Paying less tax means we have more cash flow. So that's good. More depreciation is good. But why do we have more depreciation? Well, because you have to invest. So depreciation and CapEx are like trade-offs. Depreciation, tax savings is like a way that the government says, you make an investment, right? We're going to give you some subsidies for your investment decisions. Because to get the 75,000 depreciation, you need to buy the machine. Otherwise, you won't have that initial depreciation. So CapEx here is also going to feature. We made an assumption that net working capital doesn't really matter. here. We set zero net working capital, but in fact they don't need to be zero. They can be whatever they want, but as long as they're the same. Okay, whether I use old machine versus new machine, if I don't make any savings in terms of net working capital, then that doesn't really matter either. So, in fact, there are only three things that matter for us. Okay. Expenses, depreciation, and capex. So let's take a look at those numbers in more detail. Expenses, okay. I want to look at expenses. How much do I save? I save 100,000. Because the old machine cost me 80,000, the machine cost 80,000. So I save 100,000. But what's the contribution to my free cash flow? I save 100,000, so I pay less. But if I pay less, I also have less taxable tax deductibility. So I save the cost, yes, but part of that's going to go toward paying higher taxes. So the savings I get is going to be the after-tax savings. I save 100,000, but I'm going to have 100,000 baht less of expenses against taxes, so I pay 20,000 baht for taxes. So the net benefit of that is just 80,000. Okay. Remember, everything when we talk about costs and revenue and so on, we want to look at the cash flow, impact on cash flow, and that's always going to be an after-tax number. You have to always think about, yes, this is what changes, but does that affect the tax I pay as well? Revenue is going to be after-tax revenue, so it's cost and the after-tax cost. Next component, depreciation. Depreciation, I used to have 20,000 baht depreciation, now I have 75,000 baht depreciation. But why does it matter? Well, I pay less taxes. I have 55,000 baht more in tax deductible deductions. So the 55,000 baht of tax deductions I have is going to lead to 20% savings of tax based on that. So 20% multiplied by 55,000 gets us 11,000 baht. The last component, my investment, yes, it costs 300,000. But you know what? I can sell the old machine. So the net cost to my investment is only 300,000, the real all cost, minus 80,000, the sale of the old machine. So it's going to be 220,000 net investment only. Okay, taking all these three components together, let's put that in an Excel table. Cost savings, 100,000, line 1, line 2, after tax cost savings. So line 1, when it turns to line 2, this is what we want. So take line 2. Line 2 is a cost savings contribution. Line 3 calculates depreciation expense, but line 4 calculates the contribution to cash flow of that depreciation expense, 11,000. Take line 2, take line 4, and then line 5, the net cost of investment, 220,000. Line 2 plus line 4 plus line 5 gets to this line. Okay, exactly the same line as what we wanted before. We get exactly the same numbers without going through two big tables. And you know what? It's a lot more informative too. We said the NPV is about 60,000 something, 70,000 something. So I could say, you know, if we invest in a new machine, we're going to be better off by about 70,000 baht. Why? Well, it's just better. We have more cash flow. That's all you would have been able to say. Had we done the first analysis of comparing cash flows of the old machine versus new machine in the tables and then concluded. If we break down our numbers like this, we could say, you know, the benefit that we're getting, okay, comes mainly from two sources. Okay? Oh, actually one source. It's a cost saving. Cost saving is worth a lot. You know, we have to make investments. Investment, it's not going to be the full amount. We need to pay, but it's still going to be something. But at least, okay, whatever we pay out, we're going to get back some savings in terms of tax. So our benefit, okay, comes from the cost savings. The investment cost is 220,000, but over time we recoup a bit of the investment cost as well through the tax deduction. When you consider all these components, on net, this investment is a good decision. So imagine, okay, you can communicate the same conclusion in two ways. The first way is let's invest because NPV is positive, or let's invest because after analysis, I think the cost savings is worth the investment amount. Which one, you know, would you prefer to hear? I think you probably have a decision on this already. So this again, okay, is the property of the NPV analysis. You could combine everything and then speak about one number, or you could break them apart into pieces and look at the value of each pieces and then add them up. We call this sum of the part analysis. These are the parts, right? You sum them up, it's the same thing. So you can look at the parts separately, analyze them separately before you add them up. Or you can add them all up into one jumbo number and analyze it. You get the same conclusion too. So sometimes it's better to be more detailed and go after the small parts instead. It's more insightful. So this is the project analysis I wanted to talk to you about. The tools are only like this. The difficult part is thinking out what are the relevant cash flows. So the 10-point checklist I gave you earlier give you some guidance about what to do. Before I move on to the decision making for the uncertainty, I want to talk a little bit more about when you do a feasibility study. Don't just rest at the output, because after all, everything you've done are assumptions. That means assumptions can be wrong. So you could do a little bit more to see that if I change assumptions here and there, what will be the impact of my conclusion? Do I still decide to do it, or do I decide to not do it? And this is called sensitivity analysis. It involves really asking a lot of what if questions. What if X changes? What if Y changes? What if my sales projections aren't as good? What if there's competition and so on? And it's important for your risk analysis and also for your competitive response planning as well. If this is my weakness, then how do I fix it? So if you want to write a good business plan or strategic plan, a sensitivity analysis part is also a very important part of your plan as well. Because after all, the numbers will always be inaccurate. At least you want to make sure that when some numbers are inaccurate, which numbers are more important for your business. So you can direct your managerial resources to making sure that those numbers are well taken care of instead. So you can go back to this old example I asked you to do, ask, this came from the assumption that if I want to value these cash flows using discount rate of 13% and growth rate of 3%, if I want to change those assumptions, I could change from discount rate of 13% to 12%. If I reduce the discount rate, the value is going to go up. So this is where the baseline is 13% to 3%. If I reduce discount rate, the value is going to go up. My table represents that as well. You could do these tables by changing numbers one by one, but this is actually an output of what's called a two-way table in Excel. Instead of showing you what to do in this class, there's lots of Excel resources online on what to do. These are very useful tools for your sensitivity analysis. You could generate a lot of outputs under different sets of assumptions very quickly by using the two-way table. So you can Google on YouTube to see how to do it. I suggest you learn how to do this because it will be useful in a lot of situations. If you read, say, a stock analyst report, you can try to find one, set you one. I think I have a stock analyst report on after you with the IPO. So they will look at after use free cash flows, and they make some assumptions about what growth rate is going to be able to sustain, what discount rate it should have. And that's one section that says, what if discount rate is not like this? If it changes, what if growth rate isn't what I expected? Then the valuation will be different, obviously. But that's part of the report that they provide as well. So you can use a two-way table to generate these answers quickly and give you a nice distribution of values. One little note: just because you see many outcomes does not mean all the outcomes are equally likely. You have to think about how likely are the outcomes. I can have any scenario that I want. Things can be as bad as I want or as good as I want. But another important piece of the puzzle is how likely are they? Because what we care about is the expected outcome. There are many outcomes that could happen. Also, each outcome have a probability associated with them. I'm investing right now with some uncertainty, but what's my best expectation of what I could see? That's also important. Because when we form our valuation, we form it based on our expected outcome. So be aware, just because numbers are presented this way, you have to think at the back, what is the distribution? how likely are each of these outcomes. If they're not likely, I don't have to care about them. They're possible, okay, but not very probable. Okay, you really have to distinguish. Is this possible? Everything is possible. I can be a billionaire, but how probable is it? Maybe I need to win a lottery, and even more. So very low likelihood, but it can happen. So don't confuse the two things. Okay. So that's some guideline of how to do it. I think if you watch YouTube clip, I think it's a lot easier. So you can do that. Okay. These are some textbook explanation as to why sensitivity is good or bad. I think that's not very important. We skip this. And then, we talk about the IRR. So we can summarize. Okay. I think let's just jump to the next topic instead. Okay. This is decision making under uncertainty. I know every decision you make are uncertain, but there are some times when if you face uncertainty in life, change your decisions along the way. One of the implicit assumptions that we've been making throughout the analysis is that if we start the investment, we're going to stick to it. In real life, though, when you decide to invest and things don't turn out as planned, you may change your decision. We want to incorporate the flexibility of changing your mind along the way and see how that impacts how you evaluate decisions you may want to make in life. Okay, so that's the topic we're going to cover in the rest of the time we have. What if I can change my mind? Would I still make the same decision upfront? So, this is called a real option. An option is the right to choose. We're going to see more on this on class on financial risk management. There are tools that are akin to what we're looking at over here. But without jumping into the financial options, think about real options first. An option is the right to choose. Okay? A real option here is just meant to designate to you that this is not a financial decision we're talking about. We're talking about business model decision. I can change my business model decision along the way. And if I can change that decision, maybe I'm going to change the way I think about how I value my business. And here's some options that you may have at your disposal. For example, I can expand, I can contract, I can slow down. Or I can just completely change the way I do things. These are the four broad things. We might not get to cover all these in this class, we'll cover some more classical ones. Let me give you some examples first. You know what this is? It's a bridge. It's a bridge.
Oh,
Some Chinese restaurant.
it's Chula Samyan, Midtown.
Yeah, thank you very much. Midtown, yeah. Midtown Samyan began construction about a couple of years ago. It was empty for many years. If you're a real estate developer, okay, and you get access to this piece of land, how good is this piece of land? You're located next to, Bansi Jula here, and there's Econ around here. Political science. You have law school on the other side. This area has the most purchasing power out of the whole Jula. So if you can get land over here, it's a no-brainer. You build, you get money. But they sat on it for a long time before they started building. What advantage do you think would you have if you just decide to not build now and delay a little bit? What do you think? Because if you build, you got the access to this. This is very, really high. How you build anything is going to be good, as long as you're private. Right? If you are on that side, it might not be as possible. Who knows? But they sat on it for a few years before they started building. What do you think could be the justifications for not building immediately? Think of waiting. How many times in life have you been in situations where you could have committed to something and you decide, yeah, let's wait a little while. Maybe you were dating someone before you decide you want to officially go out. You could have asked them out a long time ago, but you waited for like 3, 4 months, 6 months. Why are you waiting? You're pretty sure they're going to say yes, but they might say no too. So what's the benefit of waiting? maybe you guys just say yes, just ask straight away. You know, like suppose you were in the shoes of that guy. You know, you could have asked, and the answer could be yes. You're pretty sure the answer is going to be yes, but you're still going to wait anyway. Why are you waiting?
Something better might come along.
Ooh.
I didn't want to say it, but
That's one of the options, one of the more valuable ideas. Yeah, exactly. This is good, but are there better things out there? That's the cynical view. Okay. You could do a more, a nicer one too. She might say yes, but I'm not sure whether she's going to say yes 100%. So maybe let's wait 2-3 more months. Let's make sure she's going to say yes 100%. Then I ask. It's about uncertainty. You're not sure. You're not sure this is the best time to ask. Right? So you wait. This is an option to do. Sometimes waiting is better than jumping in straight away. We're going to see quantification of this as well. Okay. You go to, a lot of places, and I think Japan is a bad example because Japan, they just launched new products anyway. Actually, maybe a good example. You may have seen some of the really, really fancy Kit Kats, like made from pink chocolate, ruby Kit Kats. Of course, very premium. Price also very premium too. Limited edition. Have you ever had this? Pepsi Green. This is not like that stevia Coke. This is like many, many years ago. You haven't seen it, but it's real. So why do you think you haven't seen it? Limited time only, right? Limited edition. So think from a first marketer point of view, then strategic point of view. Why would you want to launch things as a limited edition only? What would marketers say? If I put a word limited edition on, what does that give me? No, sorry? Can be more expensive. Okay. Limited equals more expensive, but how can it be more expensive? No, sorry? Yeah. You put limited on, you're like, oh, okay, it's going to be limited time only, right? So let's buy it before it's gone. But that's from marketing perspective, like to artificially increase scarcity. Right? Anything that's scarce is valuable. That's what economics teaches us. So you create some artificial scarcity out there, then you can increase the perceived value of that. That's marketing response. A strategic response could be like this. I make things limited because I want to try things out. I don't want to roll out on a nationwide scale. Remember the example of cannibalization we talked about earlier, Coke Life? I want to test out how much cannibalization is going to happen. So let's launch a limited edition to try out the market. If it doesn't work out, I can always say, oh, it's supposed to be limited edition. It's not because the product fails. It's not supposed to be there for a long time anyway. But if it really works, okay, suddenly the word limited edition disappears. It becomes now your mainstream product. This is called an option to expand. I invest right now. If it fails, it's limited, no damage. If it works, I can expand to the whole nation, expand to the whole world. But without testing, I wouldn't know whether it's going to work out or not. Right? So this is turning your assumption into reality by starting small first. Without committing the full resources for a nationwide rollout, therefore you may get a nationwide failure. You want to fail small, but when it does work, then you can scale big. Option to expand. Third example, okay, when you buy a plane. Nowadays, planes are used for mainly two purposes, right? Okay. Take things around, but those things can be us or packages, passengers versus freight. It turns out, okay, when you want to carry something that's very, very heavy in terms of freight, if you talk about people are actually pretty light and not that dense compared to things you can ship on the plane. So if you want to fly things that are very dense and heavy, your hull needs to be reinforced. Otherwise, it's not strong enough, okay, to carry the weight. And of course, if you want to reinforce the hull, okay, it costs more. In addition, okay, if you want to convert a plane that is not reinforced to a reinforced plane, it costs more to reconvert than to build from scratch. Imagine there's an airline that wants to order a 767 Boeing, or could be anything. With reinforced floor, even though it has no plan to use it to fly freight, it's a passenger airline. But I'm gonna buy reinforced floor anyway. I actually don't need that. But why might I want to do it? Let's go back to the example we talked about earlier. Give another example. Okay, you go to most condo building. Okay, the height restriction is about already. The thing is 2.8, but once you put down the ceiling, it can be down to just 2.3 meters. So most condos, they don't have very high ceiling. When you go to offices, okay, and when you go to say malls, you notice the ceilings are pretty high, much higher than condos. That's because the building code requires that if you want to use areas in office, per 1 square meter, there's so many more people per 1 square meter than residents. So if there are going to be more people, you need more air. So to have more air, you need to have more air space. Therefore, the floor needs to be higher. So imagine, okay, if you built your, say, real estate space intended for condos, and you want to convert it to office later, can you do it? Condos tend to be low. You need to be in office high. Conversely, if you build it as an office, can you make it into retail? Can you make it into a condo? Go to Thong Long, 8 residences. That building used to be an office building. They converted an office into a service apartment and condo. Can do, because office buildings have high ceiling. You want to convert something high into something that has more lenient restrictions, easy. You want to convert something low into something that has more strict restrictions, cannot do. This is called option to change. Sometimes you want to pay a little more, but because it buys you flexibility. Okay, if my airline doesn't work out, at least I can sell my plane to FedEx, to Amazon. If my airline doesn't work out, I have to sell my my plane to other airlines who might be struggling as well. Then are they going to pay a good price? I don't know. But at least if I make sure my plane is strong, I can widen my pool of buyers. When I need to change business model afterward, I can do. I buy that flexibility. I may invest more today, it costs me more, but I buy a piece of mind later down the line. Use an option to change. Okay, now you get the idea. It all involves having some preconceptions about what's going to happen, but then some truth hits you and then you decide to change. In our previous framework, we don't allow for that at all. But here, we are allowing for this. And to allow for this, we have to also think about uncertainty. Because the key driving force that makes changes in decision valuable is that we know the future is uncertain, but once it happens, we know whether our assumptions are right or wrong. So once we know we want to change our decision, then our trajectory may be different after we change our decision. That's the idea. Okay, let's have a look at some numerical examples, a simple one. Suppose you want to build a hotel. You watch that James Bond movie where they went to wherever that was, and they had a nice hotel. That's fantastic. I want to own a hotel like that too. So let's build an ice hotel for ourselves. So you make some projections, how much it's going to cost. So don't take these numbers for real, it's for fun. Okay. Suppose it's going to cost you 120 million, okay? And let's think of it as a game perspective. You press build and it's done. Maybe it may take a few years, but let's say you pay 120 million and it's done. The problem is you do know the cash flow is going to be 20 million perpetuity, and it's pretty risky, so discount rate is 20%. So based on this information, it costs 120, perpetual cash flow 20, cost of capital 20%. So let's see whether we want to do it or not. Okay. I want to make this cost of capital high because we're talking about really risky things. A hotel is kind of risky, but an ice hotel is probably really risky. So I'm going to use a high rate to protect that. Okay, so let's calculate the NPV of this investment. Let me draw you a picture first of what this looks like. Get it again. Okay, so we make an investment of 120 and we're going to get back 20 in perpetuity. That's what our project cash flow profile looks like, and our cost of capital is 20%. We're going to calculate the NPV of this investment opportunity. So value minus price, our value is going to be all these cash flow in the future. 20 per year as a perpetuity, we discounted, okay, well, the formula is the constant perpetuity divided by R minus G is 0, so we can just use 20%. That's the value. Minus the price of our investment, okay, minus the price of our investment is 120. So value 100 minus price 120 minus 20, side. Wow, this is less than 0, so less than. So this is, as far as we've learned, okay, our toolbox gives us this conclusion. It's not a good idea after all. Let's not do it. Alright, now the next page. Okay. The next page that says option to expand. Example option to expand. One thing I want to add here is that when we look at these 20 million and so on, these are expected cash flow. You think, okay, on average, you're going to get 20 million. In fact, if you think, if you know that 20 million you fall is based on the expectation that there are two things that could happen. Okay, the hotel could work out, where you're going to get higher cash flow on that. Or the hotel could actually not be very successful, where you're going to get 10. So your 20 comes from the fact that there are two equally likely possibilities of 30 million per year or 10 million per year with equal probability. So we know from statistics class that, well, the expected value of this is 20. Right? So what if we knew the project is going to work out? What if we knew the cash flow would actually be 30 million per year instead? Would this project be a good investment opportunity? Let's calculate the NPV. Assuming cash flow is going to be 30. So we're replacing 20 with the 30 now, because in this branch of our reality, we would have gotten 30 million cash flow per year. So it could have worked out. That's one possible version of the world that our decision works out. It's also another version of the world where our decision doesn't really work out. In that case, our cash flow is only 10. Discounted at 20%, same construction cost. So 50 minus 120 equals minus 70. Okay. So let's take the expected value of this and this. Probability half that the value of project is 30, or another probability half that the expected value of our project is 70. The expected value of this is precisely the minus 20 that we originally got. So with a bit of an unraveling of the uncertainty surrounding our investment, our minus 20 number precisely came from two possibilities that could happen. Either our project works, our project doesn't work. We don't know. But it turns out, okay, when we try to weigh out the possibilities and the benefits or the loss, turns out on average, it's not a good decision. So this is in fact what our NPV analysis is doing. Okay? We're trying to weigh out many possibilities in the future, and then we have to make a conclusion we think is more likely to be bad than good. Actually, no. It's a likelihood, but when it's bad, okay, the impact of it kind of outweighs. So So we decide let's not do it. In reality, the possibilities can be more numerous than this, okay? But the idea is the same. It's a combination of one, the likelihood, and two, in that likelihood, how good is it for you? And you want to make a decision based on that probability distribution of things that could happen in the future. So what if I told you, okay, that if you do decide to do it, right, there are actually 9 other locations in the world you could build this business. So if it works, okay, it's not going to be just limited to one hotel. Okay? You can have many more days. You can have 10 hotels around the world. If it doesn't work, okay, being the thin-skinned entrepreneur that you don't want to admit failure. So if one hotel works fine, I can live with one failed hotel. But I don't want to have 10 failed hotels. So let's build one hotel and see if it works. And if it works, we're going to have 10. But if it doesn't work, we're going to stick with one and then stay quiet about this. Let's see what decision will be made in this case. So we make a small modification. In reality, okay, whether we find out whether it's successful or not, we may have to operate a hotel for a few years. But again, okay, let's be in a game world where if we decide to invest, okay, the moment we break ground on our construction, we know immediately whether it's a good idea or not. It may be things like, once you break ground, you get news coverage about people either really excited about the idea or people really taking fun of you for the idea. So you have a guess of whether it's a good idea or not. But in any case, okay, we're going to assume that once you break ground, you know whether it's good or not. So our modification over here is going to be, well, if I have one hotel, my option, okay, my choice here is going to be, do I want to have one hotel? Or do I want to have 10 hotels? If I have one hotel, I can have NPV of 30. If I have 10 hotels, this will be scaled up 10 times. If I have one hotel and it's bad, my NPV will be minus 70. And if I have 10 hotels and it's bad, it will be minus 700. So our choice here involves, do I want to have one hotel or 10 hotels? That's our option to expand. Do I expand or not? Well, if it doesn't work out, I'm going to pass on the option to expand. I'm going to stick with one hotel, please. So my NPV would be minus 70. If the hotel actually works, or I have a choice to expand, I will. So I would like to expand to 10 hotels, please. We're no longer restricted to NPV of 30. We could pick 300 instead. Right? So we have to think about our choice, and here our choice is whether we want to have one hotel or 10 hotels. That's our right to choose. So we exercise our right. Here we decide to not expand, but here we do decide to expand. Now here are our outcomes. Let's calculate the expected value of our outcome. Half times, you could have chosen 30 or 300. Well, I'm picking 300, so I'm going to put 300 here. That's in this state of the world. In this branch of reality, okay, I can choose between minus 70 and minus 700. Well, I'm going to choose minus 70 instead. So when you do this calculation, turns out the NPV of this decision becomes plus 115. So with option to expand, suddenly, okay, the offering becomes more attractive. Because if it's good, you're going to expand. You're going to use our right to expand. If it's bad though, you're going to choose to not expand. Notice here, when we pick these numbers, okay, we're pretty much picking the higher number of the option we have gives us the right to pick the higher number of the better option for our business. So still, we're choosing to build the hotel, but if we realize, we incorporate the fact that, hey, if it really works out, this could really scale. So we could turn an investment decision that if you look at it by itself, why are we doing this? has negative NPV. But if you try to think from that perspective that why restrict myself to just have one hotel? If it works, I could expand even more. There's a lot of upside to this. Your analysis now indicates maybe building hotel is good enough. Notice, okay, at the moment when you build, you're not deciding whether you want to build one hotel or 10 hotels. You can decide later. Just build one hotel now, see whether it works or not. So on the surface, it looks like I'm deciding whether I'm going to build a hotel or not. But in the back of my mind, it's do I build a hotel now and then expand later or not? It's got one more decision embedded inside that suddenly make this investment proposition more appealing than it looks on the surface. Okay, so that's how incorporating options into your analysis actually broadens your source of value. Using the traditional NPV analysis is quite restrictive because it assumes that once you do it, you're going to be doing it without making changes. You may make change, but these are predetermined changes. This is what we call conditional changes. I may or may not change. In your traditional plans, it is a planned change. You will change. You don't have any options. Here, I can build my milestones along the way and then make new decisions along the way. If I reach this, with X, I'm going to go that path. If Y, I'm going to go different. And I allow myself to have that flexibility, and flexibility equals value. If you can choose better things for you from your perspective, that means when you look at it, the investment proposal will be more attractive. That's what it means for you. I don't think we have time to do all of them. Okay, so maybe let's do one more example. Take a break there. Here's an option to expand. Let's do another type of option. Okay? An option to abandon instead. Now let's turn ourselves from thin space, thin skin entrepreneur who open one hotel regardless and maybe expand it. Let's imagine we only have one site. And if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work though, we're gonna call it quit. Quit while you're ahead. Let's not bleed any more money. Just stop now so that we don't damage ourselves anymore. So just one hotel, but do we continue operating or do we quit early? So let's have a look at our setting. Okay, option to abandon. Let me change the numbers a little bit. We had the numbers like this. Okay, with equal likelihood, it could either be 30 or 10 in terms of cash flow. And the expected value is 20. I'm going to change the numbers so that the numbers are more extreme. Okay, I'm going to make the upside really good, 60. I'm going to make a downside really bad, minus 20. But if you take these numbers and take the expected value, it's still the same. Okay, so once I take the expected value, it's still the same. I just want to change a little bit about how did we get that 20? It's not the average of 10 and 30 anymore. It's the average of 60 and minus 20. And when I do this, I think you can guess where I want to go, right? Because one is making, at least one is making positive cash flow. The other one is losing money. So I want to make it extreme. If you're losing money, do you want to stop? Well, you will. But let's see if we do stop, how does that impact our decision? So let's calculate the NPV of both options. First option, NPV equals 60 divided by 20% minus 120. So that's what? 300 minus 120 equals 180 plus 180. The other one is minus 20 divided by 20% minus 120. So minus 20 divided by 20% is minus 100. And minus 120 gives you minus 220. Okay. One is plus, one is minus. You take the expected value. 50% times 120 plus the other 50% times minus 220. The outcome is still minus 20. So we have the same numbers, right? 20 cash flow and minus 20 NPV, but the insight of why we got minus 20 comes from very, very different outcomes. It can really work or really suck, but on average, it's still the same. Okay, a technical term for this is called a mean preserving spread. The mean is the same, 20, but you spread out the potential outcomes. You're just essentially trying to increase the risk this year. So another way of saying this is the outcomes are much more uncertain. But the expected outcome is the same, but inside though, things are a lot more uncertain. Things are a lot risky. So we have a really risky investment opportunity. So now to the next page. I just want to have one hotel. So we're going to change the option. We don't have an option. We have the option to expand anymore. We're going to have the option to continue, or the option to quit, to abandon. So if we abandon, we get 0. I just told you when you liquidate a project, you should get some invested capital back. But let's just say if you liquidate an ice hotel, what do you get?
Water.
Yeah, if you look at the ice hotel, the beds are actually made of ice too. So you literally liquidate the hotel into nothing. So for simplicity, 0. Okay, 0 liquidation part. And that's why I think the ice hotel is up, just for this part. All right. So if we do decide to abandon the hotel, how would our calculation change? If we decide to abandon the hotel, let's look at this. You don't have to calculate this for the good case, because if it's a good case, why abandon? You could calculate it, but it doesn't mean anything. You're never going to abandon anyway. The option to abandon will be more relevant when things are bad. So let's have a look at what happens when you do indeed abandon. Well, let me show you, the graph, or cash flow graph, of what you're doing essentially when you're trying to value a hotel in this scenario. Okay, so you spend 120, and then every year you bleed even more cash. So when you did the valuation, if you assume you're bleeding cash forever, okay, you're going to liquidate. That means if you liquidate after you operate for 1 year, the other nightmare in the future, you can do away with. That's nothing anymore. When you do liquidate, you do get something back, but here we assume it's 0, so that's nothing back. So our cash flow is we spend 100 million, 120 million to build a hotel this year. After the first year, we bleed money, minus 20 million in terms of free cash flow. Then we decide, let's quit. We get nothing back through, but at least we don't lose more money next year. So let's calculate what the value of this option is. It's minus 20 as before, but instead of discounting by the discount rate, that was a perpetual value. This is a one-off cash flow. So it's back to 1 plus R. Single discounting, minus 120. And this gives us minus 136.7. So this is continue. This is continue. And this is abandon. If we know that we could abandon, then when we use the numbers to analyze our situation, we're not going to pick this because we know that once reality hits that it's not going to be a money-making proposition anymore. This doesn't make any sense. Why continue to operate at a loss when you could just quit? Yes, it's still losing money, but it's just not as bad as keeping losing money forever. So we replace the number with this instead. Our value becomes the upside. The value is 180 NPV with option to abandon. So this is saying that if we operate the hotel, now we don't know what's going to happen, but if we operate and it works, it's going to be value about 180. But there's also a equal chance it's not going to work. But when it doesn't work, we don't need to be stuck with this money-losing hotel forever. We can put a break on it. Just operate 1 year and be done. So the value of this reality is just going to be minus 136.7 instead. We choose to abandon instead of choose to continue. So that was our choice. You don't need to make that decision now. But when the time arrives, if we did make that decision, which we will make that decision, it's more rational to do so, then our value should be this lower number. Once you do this calculation, the value is 21.7. So, with the option to abandon, what used to be a money-losing enterprise is now more attractive. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to make money. Okay? You may lose money, but the prospect of losing money is not as scary as before now. Because before you were assuming that you're going to lose money for a long time, which really hurt a lot. So that's why it was minus 20. Now you lose money, but just long enough for you to quit. So damage is more limited. Now it's worthwhile for you to consider the risk more seriously. And in fact, it turns out into favor as well. And so that's how options affect your way of thinking. Without the decision, without the option, this project is worth minus 20. It might as well be worth 0. It's not worth anything. But there's an option value. With the option to abandon, the value can be improved because of that flexibility. So the improvement in value from that flexibility sometimes we call this the option value as well. We add to the decision that we make. I think we don't have time to go through the rest. Okay, so let me put this aside and then continue when we talk about the next topic next time. I'll also pause some exercises regarding this topic for you, okay, next couple of days. So let me just get some exercises ready, and then you can do that on quizzes, just like you had in the other topics. Right, so that's it for today. Okay, see you guys next week.
Thank you.
I think this option is like theoretically true that most of the company cannot decide like second year, third year, maybe they can maximize their profit. That's why they continue and then bleeding money. Then bankruptcy.
Yeah. Once you've committed to something, it's hard to pull yourself back out.
Like
You buy
maybe
it, you call them the share, and then it goes down 40%. You can't stop.